The announcement from the DWP has sparked a wave of interest and relief among pensioners across the nation. After months of uncertainty and heated debate, millions of vulnerable citizens may finally see a lifeline restored just in time for winter. But let's not overlook the harsh reality that led us here. The decision to restrict winter fuel payments in the first place left countless pensioners grappling with soaring energy bills and bitterly cold homes. This isn't just a policy shift, it's a long overdue acknowledgement of the struggles faced by the elderly during an unprecedented cost of living crisis. For too long, pensioners, those who built the very fabric of this country through decades of labor and sacrifice, were left to bear the brunt of government austerity. Stories of rationed heating, skipped meals, and mounting despair painted a grim picture of a nation failing its most vulnerable. The outrage was palpable, with grassroots movements, legal challenges, and public outcry forcing the issue into the spotlight. Now, as the DWP hints at reinstating this critical support, questions remain. Is this a genuine effort to prioritize humanity over budgetary constraints, or simply damage control in the face of mounting criticism? While this development is a glimmer of hope, many wonder if it's enough to address the larger issue of systemic neglect. Energy companies continue to rake in record profits while pensioners have been left to choose between warmth and sustenance. This decision, if fully realized, could mean the difference between enduring winter with dignity or succumbing to its hardships. But it's not just about policy, it's about priorities. Who does the government truly stand for, the powerful or the powerless? As public pressure mounts, the battle over winter fuel payments isn't just about pounds and pence, it's about compassion, accountability, and justice. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over, and its outcome will shape not just the lives of pensioners but the character of our nation. The fight to restore winter fuel payments isn't just about pensioners, it's about the very heart of our nation's values. Let's talk about why this issue resonates so deeply with millions of people across the country. For years, winter fuel payments have been more than just a financial aid program. They've been a lifeline. A promise that, no matter how cold the weather or how high energy prices soar, our elderly citizens, those who spent their lives building this nation, won't have to face winter's bite alone. And yet, that promise was quietly dismantled, leaving pensioners out in the cold, both figuratively and literally. Think about what it means to cut a benefit like this at a time when energy prices are skyrocketing. For the average person, rising bills are a frustration. For a pensioner living on a fixed income, they can be devastating. Imagine being 75 or 80 years old, retired, and watching the cost of heating your home double or even triple in just a few years. You're already counting pennies to make ends meet, and suddenly, you're faced with an impossible choice: heat or eat. That's the reality for many pensioners across the UK today. When the government first decided to restrict winter fuel payments, it didn't just hurt financially, it sent a message. It told pensioners that they were expendable, that their decades of hard work, taxes, and contributions didn't matter anymore. The anger and frustration weren't just about the money. It was about the sense of betrayal. A sense that the country they helped to build had turned its back on them when they needed it most. And here's the thing, pensioners aren't asking for luxury. They are not asking for handouts. They are asking for basic dignity. For the right to live their later years in a warm home, without the fear of freezing during the winter months. That's not too much to ask, is it? Yet somehow, the government deemed it expendable. The outrage was immediate and widespread. You could hear it in the voices of pensioners who shared their stories in the media. You could see it in the protests, the petitions, and the growing calls for action. And you know what? People listened. Because these weren't just statistics or numbers on a government report. These were human beings. Grandparents. Neighbors. Friends. People who had worked their whole lives, only to be left in the cold, literally. The decision to cut winter fuel payments was a calculated one. The government claimed it was necessary for fiscal responsibility, to balance the books, as they often like to say. But let's be honest here, balancing the books on the backs of the most vulnerable is not fiscal responsibility. It's cruelty, plain and simple. Especially when you consider that, at the same time, energy companies were reporting record-breaking profits. Profits so obscene they could afford to give their CEOs bonuses that could heat thousands of homes. And yet, the government chose to go after pensioners instead of holding these corporations accountable. It's infuriating. But here's where things get interesting. This isn't just a story of hardship and betrayal, it's also a story of resistance and hope. Because pensioners and their advocates didn't take this lying down. Unite, one of the country's largest and most vocal unions, stepped in and said, enough is enough. They launched a legal challenge, taking the fight directly to the courts. And it wasn't just about reversing this one policy, it was about sending a message. A message that the people of this country will not stand by while their most vulnerable citizens are trampled underfoot. The leadership of Sharon Graham, Unite's General Secretary, has been nothing short of inspiring. Her determination to fight for pensioners, to call out the government's hypocrisy and greed, has galvanized a movement. She didn't mince words when she called the decision to restrict winter fuel payments what it truly is, a moral failure. Her rallying cry has resonated across the nation, giving voice to the anger and frustration that so many feel. But while the courts will have their say, the real battle is happening in the court of public opinion. And let me tell you, the verdict there is already clear. People are fed up. They are tired of seeing pensioners treated as collateral damage in the government's endless quest for austerity. They are tired of excuses about budget deficits when energy corporations are rolling in cash. And they are tired of a political system that seems more interested in protecting the rich than helping those who actually need it. This isn't just about one policy or one winter. It's about the kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a nation that turns its back on the elderly, that leaves pensioners to freeze in their own homes while the wealthy get richer? Or do we want to be a nation that values compassion, that takes care of its most vulnerable citizens, and that holds the powerful accountable? These are the questions at the heart of this fight. Now, let's talk about the broader implications. Because this issue doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of a larger pattern, a pattern of prioritizing profits over people. Whether it's cutting benefits, underfunding public services, or refusing to implement fair taxes on the wealthiest individuals, the government has made its priorities crystal clear, and the people are noticing. The growing backlash against the restriction of winter fuel payments is part of a larger movement. A movement that says enough is enough. Grassroots campaigns are gaining momentum, social media is flooded with calls for justice, and the pressure is building. This isn't just about reversing one policy, it's about changing the way we think about governance, accountability, and fairness. And let's not forget the role of the opposition in all this. The Labour Party, once the champion of the working class, has faced criticism for its lack of action on this issue. Many feel that Labour's failure to stand up for pensioners is a betrayal of its core values. The party that once fought for fairness and justice now seems hesitant, caught between its principles and its political ambitions. But here's the thing, the public sees through it. They know that true leadership means standing up for what's right, even when it's not politically convenient. As winter approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Energy prices remain at punishing levels, and pensioners are already struggling with a cost of living crisis that shows no signs of abating. Every story of an elderly person rationing heating, skipping meals, or retreating to a single room to stay warm is a reminder of what's at stake. These aren't just isolated incidents, they are a damning indictment of a system that has failed to protect its most vulnerable. But there's still hope. The growing public outcry, the legal challenges, and the grassroots movements are all signs that change is possible. This is a fight for the soul of our nation, a fight to ensure that no one is left to face winter's chill alone. And it's a fight that's far from over. The decision to cut winter fuel payments was a choice to prioritize the powerful over the powerless. But now, the people are making their voices heard. They are demanding accountability, compassion, and justice. And they are sending a message to the government: reverse this cruel policy or face the consequences. This story isn't just about pensioners, it's about all of us. It's about the kind of society we want to be. And as this fight unfolds, one thing is clear: the people won't stand for injustice. Not now, not ever.